Have you ever woken up one day and everyone seems to have a new job, a new relationship, a new marriage, a new something going on in their life? They're starting something new, they're starting a new business, they're starting a new, going on a trip, traveling around the world, right? But it seems like in your life, nothing is happening and you fell behind. Honestly, there's this shame with feeling left behind or feeling like the world is going on without you. Right? I felt that a lot, and it seems like there's nothing new. I think it's 2022, 2023. It just felt like everyone I knew was traveling out of the country. If you're from an African country, you know this. We are all jackpotting to greener pastures too. Western European countries, right, and American countries, and in search for greener pastures. And it just feels like nothing is happening in your life. There's no news. When people reach out to you and they share all their good news and they ask you, oh, what's up, what's going on in your life, you have nothing to share. There's a shame that comes with that, and you need to acknowledge that. And with you, there's a shame that comes with that, and shame is not as a shame. There's a feeling of being left behind that comes with that, and I think we need to acknowledge that, right? But then also need to recognize. So in your acknowledging that you are not feeling good, you need to recognize, because I've also come to recognize this, because that phase, and then I think in that season I was with this friend that kept on saying, you need to travel out of the country. There was just this pressure. You will help me get something. You can take your IELTS. You can do this. You need to go. Everybody is going outside the country. That's crazy. But so what I'm sharing today is around what changed for me, right? There was so much pressure to do something, to relocate, and nobody was caring. I think that even during that season, I never knew God, and nobody was caring about, like, is this the right thing for me to do? Should I be doing this? What's the impact of me doing this? You know, people randomly take decisions without thinking about the consequence of their action. You take a decision in the moment, and you don't think about, like, 2 years from now, what's the impact of that decision, right? So I want to share the first thing for me that changed my perspective about feeling left behind is to focus on yourself, right? Focus on yourself, because everybody's journey is different, and we're all coming from different places, and we all have different talent, and we're all going different places, and God brought you to this world for different things, different reasons. But it's crazy how we compare, and I was saying it in my last video about when it comes to human beings, you're not comparing apples with apples. You are not. It's not the same person that gave birth to you. It's not the same parents. Even if it was the same parents, it's not the same. I did this study. It's part of my master's program where I studied the relationship between your position in the home, right, versus how likely, and the relationship between that and how likely you are to engage in risky behaviors. It really matters. Remember that when your parents just have one child, the home environment is largely different compared to when your parents now has two child, when you're two in the house. It's largely different, and those children experience family life from different lenses, right? So when you are feeling left behind, that it's okay to acknowledge that, oh, there's something, I'm feeling this way, but to acknowledge that your journey is largely different from your sibling, your parent, your friends, your family, your church members, different from anybody that you are really comparing yourself with. And that's the ludicrous thing about feeling left behind. How do you know you're behind? Because you're comparing yourself with someone else. That's how. Because there's no way for you to know the trajectory of your life. There's no way for you to know that tomorrow when you wake up, you're just going to get this deal that changes your life. But why do you feel like nothing is happening for me? Because you can't, because you're comparing your life with someone else, right? So that's something I really want to put out there, to understand, in recognizing how you're feeling, come to acknowledge that your journey is different, that how you arrive, there's this adage in Igbo that where the person that ran got to, the person that walked will also get to the place, right? I don't want to say it in Igbo because I have to translate. So where someone ran to, you that is walking, you also get here. Even you that is crawling, you also get there. So you need to acknowledge that there's uniqueness in journey, in personal journeys, right? And that, yeah, even when, as it's happening for other people, it will happen for you eventually. And you know, that's that analogy about when it's happening for them, learn to clap for them, because their journey is happening now for them. It's also going to happen for you in the future. To acknowledge that, right? The next thing is to set. Now you've understood that you are having this feeling because you are comparing yourself with people. Who is the best person to compare yourself with? Yourself. Yourself. That's the best person to compare yourself with. This light has gone off. But I think this is better. So that's the best person to compare yourself with. Compare yourself with yourself. Who you were yesterday, what you were doing yesterday, the type of person that you were yesterday. That's the best person to compare yourself with. Set yourself benchmarks. Oh, how do I used to speak before? How did I used to dress? How did I used to show up in life? How do I used to communicate? Then what has changed now, right? How is it different from last year? That's how you know you are growing, right? Not comparing yourself with someone you saw online, someone you saw somewhere, right? Compare yourself with who you were yesterday. That's the only way you will know that you are making progress, right? The next thing is, I've talked about it, limit comparison with other people. Because that's how you arrive at that conclusion. Because it's after you thinking, after you seeing other people, then you have arrived at that conclusion that you are left behind. I know how much you say to this. And then the next thing is, be grateful. I talked about this, about being mindful. Be grateful, right? Be grateful. Practice gratitude. That's the way, right? If you really look at your life, you are not sick. You have data to watch this YouTube. You are not idle. You have a working job. You have a family that loves you. And you're just like, okay, yes, it might not be going as well as I thought, but I would for once say that things are not as bad, right? It's not as bad as your brain has, conjured it up to be. Yes, it could be better, but it's not as bad as that, right? So that's something I want to share. The next is to also seek support. We say this in my church all the time, and sometimes I used to think it's cliche, but there's a truth in that. For areas of my life where I have done things in communities, and most times I'm a passive community member, I'm just in the community, but you are in the community and you are seeing others doing things, it also motivates you to, take on new risk, to move forward, if you're required to move something, if you're required to, move, is there any area of your life you're required to take an action, right? Being in a community of people helps you, honestly, it helps you. I've seen it, I've looked at it, I've studied it in areas of my life where I've had communities, right? Those are kind of the most successful areas, right? And areas where you are struggling, or I'm struggling to do it by myself, I'm saying, okay, I can do this. Those are the areas where I'm facing like the most resistance, right? But when you are in a group of people, and yes, and I said this in my last video, let me tell you the truth, sometimes finding community is actually challenging, right? But a key way to find community is also to build a community yourself, which is also twice as challenging. But now it will be your community, which is you put yourself out there and say, I'm going through this. If you are going through it, come, let's walk through it together, right? So I think I hope this has helped you to limit social comparison, to practice gratitude, to focus on your journey, to seek support, right? Build community. Find your community, or you build your community.